Hey, the Duke crew. This is Charlie. I'm here today talking about June's Grand Cru selection. June's theme is going to be summer juice. So we've got one rosé and two white wines. And, rosé, white wine, summer juice, that's kind of a broad concept, but that doesn't mean we can't have fun and have some really, really interesting gems in there. People often think rosé, like, that's a porch pounder. It's not, I don't have to get terribly complicated with it. But I believe that you can have, even in the broadest of categories with wine. You can have wines, bottles that are easy to enjoy, easy to understand, but you can still dig a little deeper into it if you're looking to get into the nitty gritty of things. So, first off, we'll start off with the pink stuff. We have the Simon Family Tigress Estate Rosé. This is 100% Grenache coming from Rutherford in Napa Valley. So, Rutherford, one of the more coveted sites and subzones in Napa Valley. And like with Napa, most people think, oh, Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay. You rarely see rosés out there, and rarer still do you see ones from non-Cab and non-Chardonnay varietals. This one here, 100% Grenache, only 12.5% alcohol, but has a little bit of lee stirring to it. So again, you have a wine that's easy to enjoy, that's very, very soft, fragrant, really jumps out of the glass, but isn't aggressive by any means. It's a tigress, but I promise she doesn't bite. Easily accessible, lovely to enjoy, and there's just a good bit of layers to it in the fruit, and also in terms of the minerality, and just a little bit of texture from that lee stirring. It's only 4 months on the lees, all stainless steel, so you're not getting an oak bomb here as well. So a lovely example of summer juice, but a little elevated. All right, next, starting off with whites, we have the Chateau de Fossèche Arcane 2023, or 2022, apologies. So this bad boy is 100% Chenin Blanc coming from one of the most historic estates in all of Loire Valley. While the modern incarnation of Fossèche started in the late 90s, the actual estate and the grounds upon which they grow their vines has been around since the 1200s. So, eat your heart out, New World. There's a lot of history here to dig into. And they recently actually, even though the vineyards are located in the Saumur appellation of Loire, they recently decided, you know what? We're not going to bottle our wines Saumur. We're just going to call them Vin de France. Why? Well, their soils in particular set them apart from all the other neighbors in Saumur. So there's a little bit more of like a flinty, gravelly characteristic to these, making the wines a little bit sharper than most Chenins that you find in this part of Loire. Not only that, but Fossèche, one of the most biodiverse, biodynamic practicing estates in all Loire Valley, Saumur and otherwise. So they have 40 hectares in their estate, and only about 10, 12 are planted vines. All the other ones, they have goats running around. They have a lot of apiaries, so there grows honey there as well. You love to see it. And, all the practices of the state, aside from that, the wine itself is just absolutely delicious. Here, you're getting Chenin at one of its leanest and meanest sort of styles in all of France, because Chenin, not so much as Chardonnay, which can be a blank slate varietal, but Chenin can be as rich and as light, can be off dry, can be bone dry, can come in all different shapes and sizes. And this one, I think, is a nice middle of the road where there's just enough texture, just enough concentration with the fruit. But again, that minerality, that distinct terroir that makes Fossèche one of the best in Saumur and Loire in general, that makes this wine just really, really pop. So you have a little bit of stone fruit, you have a little bit of that citrus fruit, but steely minerality and a little bit of smokiness from that flint content that you get in their soils. So Chenin, but elevated, a Vin de France, but it tastes a hell of a lot better than most Vin de Frances in all of France. And last but not least, a summer juice, but a little rarity from Majorca. We have the Con Verdura Cas Rosetes 2021. So this bad boy is 100% Giro Ros. Don't worry if you've never heard of that grape. Like with a lot of parts of Iberia, we're talking a native varietal that's been grown in Majorca for centuries at this point. It actually shares a lot of parentage, or is a parent of a lot of other native Majorcan varietals. So even though this is 100% a white grape, it's, is kind of a parent, has lineage to a bunch of other red and white varietals all spread throughout the island. But despite this, lineage and this pedigree, there's only maybe a few dozen hectares on the entire island. And Tomeu, the winemaker behind Con Verdura, not only does he champion the native varietals of Majorca, but he also has a lot of older vine parcels. So this, while both of these wines, the Fossèche and the Simon family, they're from slightly larger holdings, there's distinct terroir in both. This one, it's just a 1.5 hectare plot of 60-plus-year-old vines, treated with 50% new oak, but in large barrels. But you don't really taste it that much. You think oak is like, oh, that's kind of an outlier for summer juice. That can't make refreshing wine. But Giro can stand up to the oak while retaining its acidity, while retaining a very distinct minerality. There's also, kind of like full sesh, very distinct soils here, like a mix of, I think it's iron-rich clay. So you have wonderful minerality, and like a lot of these unique varietals in Majorca and in mainland Spain and Portugal, this is a little bit of a chameleon grape. It has all these different fruit characteristics to it, also having wonderful minerality and great acidity. And you can't quite put your finger on like where exactly it lies. Like if it's more of a Chardonnay, more of a Chenin, more of a Sauvignon Blanc. Like this is a truly unique wine that you will rarely find elsewhere in the world because Giros doesn't really like to travel that much. And Tomeo, he's one of the best growing Giros and one of the best winemakers in Majorca, which, you know, Napa, Loire, they have, pretty set sort of standards, and there are people who are changing the game there. But Majorca, on the other hand, it doesn't, it's undergoing a winemaking renaissance. They don't have these centuries or decades of tradition or a big name and expectation that they have to, sort of limit themselves to. So there's a lot of experimentation, there's a lot of restoration of native varietals, and a lot of excellent gems in Majorca. And Cambodura is just one of them, but they're also one of the best. So probably the fanciest, most niche of the bunch, one that's redefining what you might expect of Loire Valley, a region you may well know, and a rosé that is deceptively refreshing while also being weighty from one of the more recognizable regions in all the New World, but it won't blow out your palate with oak or fruit or alcohol. Summer juice, baby.